think that's true because sometimes your head is just so down deep in what you've been doing for so long, you're not used to picking it up and seeing, oh, I could have been doing this a completely different way.
Yeah.
I wanted to first start and kind of sense check everyone's feelings of AI. I, for one, have been through kind of a journey of what I think about AI. I'm generally quite an excited, like I guess I think things are exciting. I know I shouldn't say that because it's very marketing cliche, but I'm excited about things and excited about new technology. But I think I went through a excitement and then I was like, oh, it's gonna take my job, like when I did engineering full time. And then as more of a product marketer, I'm now like, oh, I don't want any AI slop. And now I think I'm back to being a bit more optimistic of the future and just, I think, wanting to use it intentionally. So just want to hear everyone's kind of like, what have your journey been with AI? Because it's here, but I feel like, you know, everyone maybe doesn't love it from the start, but you know, we don't have to use it, but it's beneficial if we do. So, Lynn?
Yeah, I definitely have had a roller coaster of a journey myself. I think at first I was very skeptical. Environmental impact was really, really high on my list. Things have definitely gotten better there. It's still something that I think about regularly, but I'm looking forward to seeing more and more improvements there. I'll also say it's going to take my job thing wasn't necessarily something that I was as worried about as some of my colleagues, but it was something that, you know, I could definitely understand from a lot of people, so I was thinking about it in that way. I definitely err more on the side of excitement. I love to think about the potential. I like the idea of thinking of it in a very intentional way, though.
Yeah.
I want to be particularly mindful of how I use it. I love experimenting. I love seeing what is possible. I'm not anti-vibe coding. I know that there are some vibe coding haters out there, for sure.
Yeah.
I'm not one of those. So I am certainly on the side of, yeah, let's see what's possible. I want to see what we can do, but I'm not about to turn everything over to AI right now.
Definitely, and we'll come back to that in a minute because I think we're all kind of aligned on like the intentionality of things and how we want to use AI in our work and at our respective companies. But yeah, Lauren, do you want to share a little bit more as well?
Yeah, I definitely went through the kind of panic, it's going to take my job moment, and I think a lot of, you know, people do, not just like engineers, but like I've talked to my product managers as well, and they've kind of had that moment, and then it was learning how to embrace it and how to realize it unlocks, you know, time for you and how you can, you know, now I try to look at it of like, oh my God, what's possible with it? Like, it's almost like we don't need less engineers. It's like we need more engineers.
Yeah.
We need more people thinking about this. And it's just like we can do things so much faster in a quicker amount of time. But I also do kind of want to echo the sentiment about like the environmental impact and making sure that like, I think that's something we should all be conscious of and making sure that like, that is something that we're like asking of these companies to consider and, you know, be aware of, but also, you know, I think there is also the human side of it of like, you know, how do I still, you know, allow AI to work for me?
Yeah.
And also like work with the people around me still.
Yeah. Aaron, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I know. I think that I'm really glad that they went first because my experience with AI is both like personal and also helping customers kind of navigate how to implement AI and how to use it in a way that makes sense for what they're doing. Personally, I mean, I've used AI, I've vibe coded a bunch, I've hit my 5-hour Claude limit and had to wait a couple hours to like hop back in, like for sure. I'm an early adopter in that kind of stuff. But I think more from like helping customers, like that's where it's been more interesting for me to be able to find out where AI makes sense to sort of be put in like a reasonable way, and not where it's like we're just going to be putting this in because it's AI, but like how will this actually help developers and help content people be able to do their jobs more easily with a little bit less stress on it. And so it's been great, like working with specifically like Lauren and Lynn on like kind of navigating that world and like what can we implement, how can we implement it, like how can we start small and then start to like have the confidence in AI to start to implement more of those like exciting features that will help everyone in the company. Definitely.
And to clarify, Aaron knows both Lynn and Lauren very well because he's their solution architect, and I've asked him to be here today. And we're going to be exemplifying a bit more later what we mean by all of these things and how you can start small and that it can be, very intentional. But from our previous meetings, I reflected a bit on, I feel like, what both of your companies have in common, and I think probably personally as well. And you described it as AI is assistive, not autonomous, and you kind of want editors more in control, right? Like that's probably a common theme here anyway, that you want the human in the loop, but can we talk, let's talk about more, why does that make sense at the Met? Is that a fair representation? And why does that make sense at the Met? Like, why is that so important?
Absolutely. You can imagine that there is a lot of apprehension about AI at a place like the Met. The Met is a 155-year-old institution. Yeah. And, I work with people who have been studying artworks and art history for decades. And the idea of AI coming in and even summarizing some of their work scares the hell out of them. The idea of AI even looking at an image of artwork and trying to represent that scares the hell out of them because it can so easily misrepresent that artwork.
Yeah, it's integrity. Sorry, that was a hard word to say.
Absolutely.
It's very important, right?
The integrity is so important. If something is potentially misrepresented, it can completely change the context and the meaning of an artwork. For example, if a computer reads something as a man instead of a woman, that can completely change the meaning of that artwork. Yeah. So we want to make sure that there's control over something like that. And also, being a 155-year-old institution, every time we've tried to move too fast, it has come to bite us. So we don't want to make that mistake. We're trying to move at a pace that is maybe a little bit faster than what's comfortable for the museum to push them.
Yeah, pushing the boundaries or pushing outside the comfort zone.
Definitely pushing outside of the comfort zone, making sure that we are making headway on things without going too far, seeing what's possible without going too far.
So experimenting and just making sure, doing it kind of bit by bit, kind of maybe field level by field level, I was going to say. We'll touch on that soon, but very specifically. And then I guess also at an institution like that, building trust among the stakeholders because they are so cautious and kind of maybe a little bit anti-AI or just very conscious, right? So doing that in pieces and just showcasing the work and then kind of building on top of that, I feel like is the way to go, especially there.
I mean, anti-AI or AI curious sometimes, maybe not always anti-AI.
No, sorry.
No, absolutely. I mean, honestly, there are some who are very anti-AI. Some are more AI curious, but honestly, a lot of times the digital sphere is still a big question mark.
100%. And we actually
Huge.
spoke about this earlier, Lauren, that sometimes people don't know what's possible if you don't show what's possible. Like, especially when everything is possible, right? Like, there's so many things you could be doing, but what should you be doing and where should you be spending your time? Where is our resources best spent when it comes to this? Because, I mean, AI isn't cheap, not today at least, maybe it will be, like at a later point, but like, yeah, we can vibe code and then 5 hours later we'll sit there and we're like, oh, okay, I can't do anything anymore. Well, I can, you can go off and do it on your own, I guess. But yeah, I'm curious more, like Lauren, what is it like at your company when it comes to like, AI as assistive and not kind of autonomous?
Yeah, I think we're very iterative at Mejuri, and it's like, we talk a lot about get it out there, try something, and like sometimes you have like this crazy idea and like you don't think it's possible, and then like you try it and it is, and you kind of like you start at like, or you see the big idea and you start at this small kind of point, and then it's like, let's iterate on that and see like, we put it out to customers and then we see how they interact with it. We see what, resonates with them, and we really kind of like iterate on that, not just like externally to customers, but also internally in the tools that we use, and especially like with Sanity, it's, we're making a product not just like for our customers, now we're making a product really for our content editors as well. How can we make their life easier? Because a lot of times too, you'll talk to like someone who has like been copy pasting this like same thing over and over again, or doing this like difficult manual task, and then you're like, but why aren't you just doing it this way? And like, I had no idea it was possible. So it's also just like having those open line of communication with our team and really like talking about this stuff. And, having those good relationships between each other. Because, if I can make something that took them maybe a week to do, now take a day or an hour, like it unlocks so many other possibilities for them to work on the million and two other things they have to do.
I think that's true, because sometimes your head is just so down deep in what you've been doing for so long, you're not used to picking it up and seeing, oh, I could have been doing this a completely different way.
Yeah. Or, you see how someone else was doing something and you're just like, why wasn't I doing that the whole time? Like, oh my God, that makes so much sense, and it just kind of like clicks for you.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. I'm curious also because you told me about this designer at Mejuri that is kind of pushing the boundaries of, I guess, what is possible, not what's possible, but what's in her remit. And now that, everyone can be an engineer kind of thing, where everyone can vibe code, can try things, like what does that look like first? Like what is she doing? And what,
one of our designers, Anna, who is just a fantastic person, probably knows our Sanity system better than me, and like I helped build it from the ground up. And she knows how to go in there and change components and change kind of the settings and figure stuff out. And she's just she really does do that iterative mindset of, let me just try something, see how it works. Oh, great, that works, that doesn't. How can I also like then add these to my designs moving forward? Like you'll see on our webpage right now, a component that was not built for the webpage, and it's working on the webpage great. And we're like seeing the results of it because she was able to try that and see how it worked. And yeah, it's been really great to see like people on their team adopt this kind of mindset and really see what they can do.
Definitely. Do you have any sort of like, because you hear these success stories of people doing this, but I also think the environment is so important that you're in to be able to empower people to do that. Mm-hmm. Like, do you have specific kind of like company values, engineering values, or like kind of what?
Yeah.
Because I feel like sometimes then, like, we have type 2 fun at Sanity, being outside our comfort zone is like a good thing. It might be uncomfortable in a minute, but it actually pushes us to be better. And I think that's something that I think I'm reminded of quite often. And like, it's a good thing to just have those kind of like, I don't know, set some sort of principles and then people follow them probably. Can you share? Maybe Lynn want to start first? Do you have any, your company?
Yeah, we try to be audience-centered for sure. I think that is the thing we try to keep at the core of everything. So whether we are thinking about building something for our external audiences or for our internal, content editors, who's using this? and keeping them at the center of our user story. And that's something that honestly, I don't know who is in product out here, but user stories are not something that our product managers have ever really been able to nail very well, because a lot of our user stories are, as a product manager, I would like to such and such and such a thing. And that's not a real user story. So that's always something that we're trying to improve upon. But really be iterative.
Yeah.
That is, I would say, the core value that, aside from being audience-centered, that I really hold near and dear. Nothing is precious. We really try to, and it's hard, again, being a 155-year-old institution, people really love to release things that are perfect. But within our own little bubble of a department, we do what we can to try to release things as they go, or as we, make them when we can. And honestly, Sanity has allowed us to do that in really helpful ways, because it is something that we can work on together, that, our curatorial staff doesn't necessarily need to see the end result of all the time. But I would say those are our biggest core values.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the core values that really drive the curiosity and the experimentation is a bit of humility, understanding that you might not be an expert in something day one, and that's okay. And be willing to try, and also one of our other values is raise the bar. And so I think those two kind of work hand in hand, where it's just if I'm gonna have humility about what I'm doing and not feel like I need to be, the expert in the room about it, I can also then raise the bar and work on that and work as a team. And I think that's really helped us be able to experiment. And kind of going off your point of, getting content editors are sometimes the user story. As an admin, I would like to do this. And I think it's also just realizing I've been an engineer for a while. I've broken a few sites in my life, and I think there's a learning process there of sometimes our content editors accidentally break something, and then it's that iteration of going back of well, our validations weren't right, what can we do next time so that doesn't happen? And I think that's been really great of it's okay. It broke, we fixed it, it's fine, let's move forward, and it's okay to break stuff sometimes, because it's the process of learning.
I think you kind of have to break some stuff sometimes.
If you haven't broken a website, have you ever really worked on a website?
100%. Yeah, I've loved that. Because, I've broken a couple of websites. It happens, it's not ideal, but you normally, actually sometimes I see it as you found the cracks in the system. Yeah. You're kind of but it's, when things are in motion, when you're learning as you're doing something, that's how you get the valuable feedback. Yeah, that's how you understand your customers, right? Mm-hmm. If you're just sitting there with your own thoughts of this is what I think about this, it's very easy to get narrow-minded. So when you actually produce and ship things often and get that feedback loop, I think feedback loops are just honestly so important to have and iterate on. Do that. I'm also curious. Sorry, Aaron, we're gonna go to you soon very as well. I was
I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, okay, good. I feel just chit-chatting. But with the content agent, obviously, that we spoke about, just briefly now or earlier, do you see that would be a great opportunity to, one, I guess, learn about your content, or the editors to learn about what's there, especially, for both of you, you have so much content, product listing pages, there's so much curatorial, so much art and all of this, that people might not, I guess, have the, they don't know everything about it, which is fair, but also be able to connect that with external things and just do that research of finding out what is the best next step. Do you think you've just seen it, but what are your first impressions basically?
Honestly, I think one of the interesting things would be I mean, I'm sure everybody in this room has probably, well, maybe not everybody, a lot of people in this room have probably gone through a content migration to Sanity. We had a lot of content on our website, and we just migrated it all over without even really taking a look at it. Not all of it. We looked at some of it. We had a lot of articles, and we could not look at all of them. I would really be curious to know what those articles even are.
Yeah.
What kind of themes do we have going on with those articles? You know, I think there's a lot that we can potentially dig into. We are now cross-linking a lot of content on our site. I'm sure there's a lot more that we could be doing there. I think there's a lot that we can potentially dig into with that content agent, but being able to, frankly, even just have that as an opportunity to explore and play around with for a while, start asking some questions would be interesting.
I think safe environment, right? That's the thing as well.
As a safe environment,
Yes.
Where people can feel, can feel like they can ask dumb questions.
Yeah.
Really, just ask whatever you want to.
Ask
It's
whatever.
a safe space.
100%. Yeah. Lauren, do you have anything to add on the content agent?
Yeah, you see this kind of stuff and your brain starts going,
Yeah.
what are all the
Same.
possibilities? And, I'm excited to see how we can integrate that with also like other kind of data points that we have.
Yes.
Like how, if I put content here, was my click-through rate? How many people are
I want my
visiting here?
analytics in
And
there.
I want my analytics in there. And I want to be able to ask, how is this content performing in this campaign, on this product page, on this collection
Maybe
page?
in this market as well, like
In
with
the-
other,
yeah.
like comparison to competitors potentially?
Exactly, yeah. Like I see this like huge opportunity to really leverage the AI to also just like give people better content.
Love that. Yeah, I think we should head into the demos very soon because it's fun to see. There will be some live reactions. Lauren has actually seen these demos. But before we do that, like, obviously we had the conversation of where there's potential to automate, where there's potential to start small somewhere. Like, I haven't actually checked this with Aaron, but we're doing it now. Just like, what were your hopes with that? Like, what did you go into thinking, it would be cool if we did this, and then we can see, we're building proof of concept, we're iterating, but what were your hopes for this and why, I guess? And then, yeah, let's head in.
Well, like I said, I think for the Met's particular use case, we weren't really looking to, although I would really love to explore rewriting some article headlines and, tags and things like that. I think that's potentially a little bit further down the line. I think a safer space for us to start would be doing the things that we have silos. Surprise, we have silos. We have really big ones at the Met. And one way that takes shape, we have multiple editorial style guides. So I wanted to bring some of our style guides into one place. And I also wanted to try to cut down on some of our workflows where we have to have someone look over everything to make sure, is this using the correct casing? Is this camel case? Is this, is this supposed to be sentence case? Things like that. And honestly, the results were depending upon who was looking at the thing, which doesn't make any sense. So I wanted to make it more efficient, and I wanted to streamline it, and I wanted to make it accurate. That was some of my hopes. We also have a language guide where certain terminology we want to make sure is not used, that we're checking for things like that. For example, we may have very old examples of an article or an exhibition from the past that may use the term homosexual. We want to say gay in a context like that. So when someone is writing something like that, we want to make sure we're checking something or going back and updating a reference to something like that. So those are the circumstances that we think, or that I was excited about exploring with Aaron.
Yeah. No pressure, Aaron, but no, but it will be really fun to see how this is translated. Obviously, you're all used to working together, and we've had this, I think it's important to say that this is like in close conversation with both of you, and building out these, proof of concepts to just showcase, showcase real life examples and how you can start small and then just build from there. So Aaron, are you ready?
Yeah, let's do it,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, we can do the Met and then...
we'll head in and talk to Lauren as well
maybe
about
get a little
Mejuri.
more from Lauren on the Mejuri use case, and we can kind of look at that.
Yeah.
Could we mirror the...
Yes.
There we go, perfect. So basically, just for some extra context on this, we had met with Lynn and Lauren both kind of to get some requirements on what we were looking to do, and specifically for the Mets use case, like one of the requirements that I was trying to implement as well as I could was the idea of AI being able to do something, but not just releasing that into the wild to do what it's going to do and just kind of publish, like without an eye on it. So I did put in bits of Lynn's style guide. She sent that to me. I kind of distilled it down. I actually have it here in sort of a style guide document at this point, where we have some bits of how we want the voice to be, how we want running times to be. They have rules around how floors and galleries should all kind of be put into the text. So I have that in here.
So this is very specific, right? You've been
It's
very
specific. And frankly, what she sent me was it was 10 pages, single space Word doc. There's a lot in there.
Which is a lot for an editor to know. I think this is the thing as well, how to know all these, and there's probably different content types that requires different types of
No one
style
is
guides.
actually checking the style guide regularly. No one.
People are going off vibes. I don't know.
Yeah.
People, which is fair. I can't.
Yeah.
I'm not blaming them, but this is the better way to do it.
Exactly, for sure. To sort of have this in a place where this can then be applied in kind of an AI way for the author to then be able to check. So I just kind of had some text spun up. I asked ChatGPT to spin me up some stuff that I want to put in. There's a couple different ways we can go about this. We'll actually look more specifically at the field level actions. I did that more for Mejuri. There is a field level action here as well for the Met, but my idea with this was I wanted to kind of put this more on a document action, because I thought that it was important to have the style guide being run without someone needing to remember to run that thing. We could use a function to do that as well, and drop that into a content release if that's another path we could do here. But I kind of just overrode this button here to apply the style guide.
There's a little button down here. I realize people can't
really
see it, but there's a little apply style guide button, and so that's running a function.
Exactly, and then now that's already been done. This has been updated.
So function with an agent action, right?
Exactly, it's using an agent action under the hood, kind of just giving some things back of what's been changed. This can then be validated by a user at that point to read through and just make sure that nothing's sort of out of sorts. And then once that style guide's been applied, that button, which is behind myself and a plant and a couch, it just then automatically kind of turns to a publish button. So it's been run, we're good, we know it's been run, let's have this thing with the ability to be published at that point. Someone could then go in and change that if they want to. There's a couple ways to do that as well. We could force the apply style guide again, or just kind of hide that behind the button at that point. If they were that's not quite right, but I don't want to force applying the style guide because it's going to keep on kind of making this same change, and so someone can make that change, go in and publish.
Can you see the diff of what's happened, or?
you can see like the changes in, I was having a little trouble I got the diff to work a couple of times. I'm still kind of doing the diff a little bit more.
Sorry for putting you on the spot, but
yeah, no, that's totally fine.
That's the next step. This is like we're
that's
starting.
Like a create or replace situation will like kind of force the diff to be shown at that
Yeah.
point for someone to be able to go and actually see like, this is exactly what's changed. Yeah.
Because I feel like sometimes when you use these AI tools, like I tend to keep some, like throw some, and then rewrite some. So it's kind of nice to see them a little bit side by side. We have these like field level diffs that you can put. You can put like recess side by side, right? So there's ways of like making sure that, I guess, keeping the workflow tight. Like you want to make sure that it's not too many things that you have to go and do. You want to kind of keep it similar. So yeah, Lynn, live reactions. What are you thinking? I was like, was this what you imagine? And like, can you see this being useful? And yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think to your point, being able to see the difference between A and B would be really helpful. But I think it would be very useful. This is the kind of thing where it would allow people to spend more time on strategy.
Yeah.
And not that they're doing this right now necessarily, but they should be. Why do we have a style guide if nobody's going to use it?
But also it might be, I guess, there's so many style guides and
so
this
many
is like
style
you can
guides.
centralize it more
Yes,
here, right?
exactly.
Which is what happens, right? Things evolve and then like it's easier to kind of have one place to store it. This is where we have the style guide. If you do want to like manually update it, that's fine, but also we can programmatically do things.
Well, that's the problem with a style guide, right?
Yeah.
It lives off in its beautiful, neat little space over here that's completely
Don't want that.
disconnected from the actual use case.
Yeah, no, we don't want that.
Put it where it belongs,
Yeah.
in where it's actually going to be used. So yeah, I think it would be very useful.
Yeah, and do you think, like, if you think about, like, stakeholders, do you see them being like, okay, yeah, this is a very, like, controlled way of doing things, and, like, there is, like, a human in the loop, right? So, like, we're not auto-publishing this. This is a function that's running on...
Well, what's great about it is
right?
I think our COO, who's very interested in efficiencies, would be like, great, let's ship it. And everyone else would be like, cool, I don't care. You're not touching anything about my description text on object pages. Great.
Okay, so this is a good way to build momentum.
This is
and get
exactly how to
people
build
be
momentum.
Like, you know, this is a small use case, but still very useful. Did you have any code on this or no to share, or just like looking at the? Because I feel like, do we want to say what like an agent action, you know, function, like kind of what they do together? Like I feel like we've touched on it, but if you want to like just showcase a little bit. You want to maybe zoom in
For
slightly?
sure, yeah. Let me make this bigger. I've got it on the nice small. Actually, you know what? I'll show you the document.
Oh wait, we did actually. David showed a little bit earlier, but they did actions. But just interesting to see what this looks like.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So this is kind of how this is working from the document action. I am kind of hitting a meta document here just to sort of like add some statuses in, and that's how. If you were to go in at this point and kind of make a difference, you would get the apply style guide again. It's sort of like diffing it at that point and saying like, what's happening here? Like, has something been edited so that maybe we need to force apply style guide at this point? Do we want to run that again? Do we just want to allow a publish to happen? But yeah, at the end of the day, I mean, we're just kind of coming here. We're running a few little like toasts to let people know like what's going on during this.
Good feedback loops, important.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then this here is where this is all sort of happening in an agent action, right? So we're basically saying, hey, review this text. This is called the clean style guide in the document. And so we're actually like just reaching out to that document, grabbing it in, putting that inside of here and saying, I want you to use this as your style guide. This could obviously be changed like to a different action if we're on something different where that's going to need a different style guide. We can just like reference the appropriate style guide in the appropriate place and make sure that that's like being applied in a reasonable way.
I think it's good because also like you can do this all in code, right? But I think the people that knows the style guide the most here are the editors, right? So you're actually keeping this in a document for them to use instead of keeping it in code. So like that's a choice, right? You can keep the instructions there. Sometimes maybe that makes sense to just have them in, in code, but sometimes I think it makes sense to have it in a document that people can update and you just kind of go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, honestly, I think what's also helpful is the style guide, if it wasn't just a single-spaced 10-page document, is something that could potentially be available, on our website behind a password or something for internal users if they wanted to pull it up for something like that. But then it's also available like this, so feed two birds with one stone.
For sure.
And we're able to use it in this context as well as, something for someone like a marketing agency that we're working with who needs our style guide and will be working with Sanity.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, I love the idea of being able to kind of use that in multiple ways too. Like we have our style guide, are we going to use this with AI? Great. Do we want to expose this to other people? Like that is now an option that we have instead of like, go find the Word doc and good luck.
Yeah.
Situation. Yeah.
Good luck, have fun.
Yeah.
No, amazing. And yeah, Lauren, what were your hopes and dreams? I was going to say you have actually checked it out before, so I know
I
that
saw
you're happy.
a version of it, so I haven't seen the newest version of it. But my hopes and dreams were.
Tell me.
We do a lot of campaigns during different times of the year. Like Mother's Day is a good example. We want to do a Mother's Day campaign. Or, BFCM is coming up for those in e-commerce. I'm sure you're well aware. So we have these different kind of campaigns where we want to talk to different products, different stories, different customer stories, different content. And right now we have some ways where you can kind of apply it across the site with our global references, but being able to apply it to all versus remove it from some, which also is a lot of thought that has to go behind that too, of which product listing pages am I going to have this content listed on? Mother's Day is a good example of, when we applied it globally, yeah, that works for most of the pages, but then you're on the men's, necklaces page going, I don't think this applies to me. And so it was, I'm talking to Aaron about it, and we kind of iterated on the idea a little bit, where it was well, what if we could give a prompt of what the campaign is? Here's, kind of similar to the style guide of here is the campaign, and then I want you to tell me what, and here's the content, and what product listing pages should this content live on? Where does it make sense to live on? And being able to then mass apply it to those pages without having to then, go create different layouts or, all that manual work.
Cool. Let's see if
Yeah, for
what
sure.
Aaron has done.
Cool. Yeah. The hopes and dreams. No pressure.
You have checked out the code actually, so
Yeah.
I know that
She
you're
has,
already
for sure.
kind of in the nitty gritty.
Yeah, this was another one. I think Lauren explained it really well, but it was again the idea of wanting AI to do this, but also this one probably could be turned into more of an agent action that's fired on a function. I think once people are feeling more confident in how it's all working together, right? I think that could be totally a thing where on publish, this is just going to do its thing because we feel really comfortable with it.
Yep.
Initially, though, it was we wanted to make sure that people, sorry, this keeps on falling. We wanted to make sure that people could get their eyes on it beforehand, before hitting the publish button. So here's an example here. We have sort of this bridal campaign. Again, ChatGPT helped me come up with all of these descriptions of what these are. But we have this kind of bridal campaign here that they'll be running. We have an audience and placement here, so we're going to go through, and we have basically created field level actions where we're going to say we want to sort of suggest some target audiences that this might be interesting to have. And there we go. So this has already gone through, kind of tagged in what would be the interesting audiences that we want to target with this. Again, in the product listing page, we're going to do the same field action level thing, but the difference on this is going to be, this is actually going to be reaching out to the Mejuri product listing pages that already exist. And so when this is going to kind of find those pages, it's reaching out there, querying those, then running AI to kind of determine what ones would be the most relevant for this. So if we come in and we'll just kind of suggest our PLPs at this point, and there we go. So this will start to come in and apply these and inject them into the campaign page. So now we have this more single source of truth of a place where AI is really assisting in helping to like get that campaign to the right spots, to Lauren's point, like making sure that if this is targeting like a Mother's Day thing, we are not like surfacing this up just globally, and it kind of makes sense in some places and doesn't make any sense in other places.
No, and also Mother's Day is different everywhere in the world, right? So that's
Yes.
also something that you can be very specific about if you do want to be like, I don't know, now I know we've not done this, but thinking about like the locale of things as well, right?
Which is like a real problem we've had of, we had a summer sale, and then, it's on summer in Australia, and we have stores and sell to Australia. So then it's like that automation of also being able to like have that voice and localization, able to like be hyper specific.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I think like this one in particular is one I think that we can really iterate on, and Lauren's already asked for the code on this one. So like 100% we're going to be like implementing this moving forward. So I'm sure our next check-ins will be fun, kind of getting this going. But this is one where I think that we really can like optimize it even further, like maybe pull some things out into some other documents where like maybe the story lives in a different place and not directly here, so we can kind of reference that. But that's like the power of the agent actions, is having that ability to like not just know what's on your document, but to be able to reach into all the different places that your content exists and really optimize what you're trying to optimize in like a way that completely makes sense, and you're not just trying to like shoehorn it in.
Definitely, and I think it's cool with like field level actions as well, or like doing it field by field, because then you can just be hyper specific, right? Mm-hmm. Like document actions make sense sometimes, but then sometimes field level is the way to go, and then like one hinges on the other, and you reach out and you kind of have that, because content isn't siloed, right? Like content lives somewhere, and then maybe you pull in something else that is then going to go somewhere else. So like having that workflow, I think this is amazing to see. Time flies. I'm like, I want to talk longer. I was like, how has this been 45 minutes? But I do want to open it up to questions. I feel like maybe people have some questions around, the demos, the code. Aaron has promised that we can maybe share the code,
Yeah, for sure.
So
we can definitely like share this out, most definitely.
Hi, I was really interested in that last portion of the demo, particularly when you were linking that to the audience. So I was just interested in the integration and the source of that audience data. Perhaps you could sort of expand upon that a little bit as to where that's coming from and what the options are basically with regard to that.
Yeah, for sure. What's really nice is like, especially this Mejuri implementation is like very close to out of the box field level actions and agent actions. There's actually not a whole lot that's happening that's like, it's not like the document actions where I'm sort of like flipping the button out and doing all sorts of that kind of stuff. So I basically just created an instruction here that's kind of looking for the document type and kind of going into the title as well. And it's just reading that campaign, and I'm just giving it some like really simple instructions on what the AI might want to do. So like it's really just like an effort of like putting this in and doing some like prompt engineering to get that to pull in. Like the categories themselves are things that already exist like as part of the code and as part of Sanity, right? So these are not things that like we're needing to like put in special in any way. Like categories exist, audiences exist already. So we can use agent actions almost out of the box to just go and help inform what those things should be in like a really simple way.
Thank you. I am wondering about like how you might chain something like that to give it more context. So, for instance, like when we were trying to do AI suggested related content, we were having a lot of trouble. And I think actually, if we were able to do something where we were doing some of our other taxonomies first and using that for a little extra context, I think that might be really cool. And just like the way that you did this in step by step, I'm kind of wondering, could that work?
Yeah, I think that like again, like being able to use the client to like reach out and get extra content that already exists. I mean, you could see in the code, like, actually we can look at the actual product listing pages. I think that would probably be a little more interesting. it's really just the ability to reach out in the client and like get the product listing pages that you want to have, in this case, and pull those in. And then I'm basically just saying, hey, like, I want you to add pages that are relevant, but you have to like only do that based on kind of this query that I've already had and I'm putting in here. So being able to like in that client, you can reach out and just grab that extra context that you would need in that way to implement it. I think that that's like a great way to do that. I also think that there's all sorts of like tools with say like, we always kind of joke that it's kind of a like it depends situation, right? Like so like I think that like there's also like many other AI tools that we have that can also help with doing something like that. But for sure, I think that like being able to like just use the client to grab all the context that you want that exists around the studio and in the content lake is a great benefit to agent actions. And then being able to have that help inform and give instructions to the AI on how that should actually do its job.
There's one more here, I think.
Yes. With the MET demo, it was changing the field automatically after it was run. But is it also possible to add a comment at the section he has found the style guide discrepancy? So let's say you added here camel case, but you needed to add Pascal case for future reference rather than the editor having to check the diff. They see a comment from the AI agent like, hey, you made a mistake, next time.
Oh, like commenting back to, like that would definitely be like, that is something we could probably implement. Like there's a few different ways that we may want to do that. I was actually thinking of that. I was actually kind of thinking of this idea of like updating the style guide based on maybe things that are being put back in, right? Like of like, hey, you did this, but like I actually kind of didn't want you to do that, and so I'm going to write something, and I want you to update the style guide to help with that. But for the commenting piece, I think that being able to just kind of have the diffs that you can kind of send off, like what I might do is like one, maybe have a comment that's a part of that, maybe have like a Slack integration with that on a function at that point is kind of like saying this is what this was and you kind of made these mistakes here, so we can kind of put those in and like just very quickly see like what's been changed and what's different and the mistakes that you made. There was a moment where I had a modal popping up that was kind of showing the diff as well, to be honest, like where that was like just a bit that was saying you had this is what I changed it to, you had this is what I changed it to. The history API though can just do that, like there's no need to have a modal popping up that's doing that. So like I think that that's like the spot like in history where like that probably makes the most sense for someone to go in and see like this is what you did, but this is what it should be. And then I mean we could work with like Lynn on like, do we want to be like sending things to people based on like, hey, you keep making this mistake, maybe you should like check the style guide out. Possibly. But yeah, I do like that idea though of like of a comment that's able to like just kind of gently nudge.
Definitely great idea. I feel like you could use another function then, right? To like kind of like do that on publish,
100%.
right? Like it's kind of like it's separate but still in the same workflow, right? So you're keeping, but yeah, you probably want to be a little bit sensitive of how you communicate that if you do so.
Knock down their editing permissions.
We have, okay, let's do one more question.
Is it for like, in terms of writing these actions or like making them work, is it like you bring your own API keys for like, you know, OpenAI or Anthropic, or is it like baked into Sanity and is it at a certain plan level?
These are using our just out of the box agent actions. You can go and use those.
Yeah. Are there like specific models that it's tied to, or is it like choose your own model or anything?
It's not a choose your own model. There's actually probably people here who know better what that would actually, in fact, the person standing behind you may even know that question better than I do, to be fair. So it isn't a like bring your own model situation. It will be using kind of like what we instructed to use under the hood. But like what you're seeing here is very out of the box, right? Like this ability to say like client.agentaction.generate, like that is part of like what is in agent actions. And I think that like, I'm glad you asked that, because I think part of what we kind of wanted to show today too is like how simple it can be to sort of get some of these in and like not needing to come up with like this huge sprint plan of like, this is going to be 2 months of work to get some type of like AI functionality and that's going to help. Like it can be very close to out of the box with just good prompting that can start to like help content people add some of this in and get some of the benefit of it. If you are looking to do some things with your own models, I would also look at the MCP server. Just if you haven't looked at it yet, it's a great thing to check out for sure.
It's quite generous, I think, functions and all of this, like try it out. And there's different kind of guides and like how to locally test it, also to be confident about what you want to do before you maybe want to do this in production, right? Which I definitely recommend. And also, I think, unfortunately, we don't have time to talk about it, but Lauren is building something really cool with the Figma kind of page builder to Sanity. So also recommend talking to her about that. It's a great conversation starter. But yeah, unfortunately, that's all we have time for. And thank you all for great questions. And thank you.